Pedaling through the streets of New York City can be physically and mentally thrilling. And for many, it's the most exhilarating part of their day.
When I commute by bike, I ride from the Clinton Hill neighborhood up to the Columbia Medical Center. 2 small kids at home, I don't have a lot of other chances for exercise, so it's definitely a workout.
And for Dr. Darby Jack, cycling through urban canyons is more than a routine. It's a potentially trailblazing field of study.
To characterize the health consequences of riding a bike in New York City.
We all know the risks of navigating traffic on a bike. Instead, Dr. Jack and Dr. Stephen Chilrod of Columbia University are more interested in the dangers we can't just avoid and we can't see.
Most people who ride their bike in New York have had the experience of being stuck behind an idling FedEx truck or whatever it happens to be and getting an obvious large dose of pollution from that.
So as you move through a city, you have air pollution that comes from far away, from the Midwest where a lot of the electricity is generated. And then you have your local sources from space heating to traffic. There's a lot of soot, or black carbon, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, metals.
Lots of nasty stuff you definitely don't want in your body.
For the longest time, most studies relied upon these air monitors that have been on rooftops far from sources, and have really been done primarily on ambient levels, totally ignoring the fact that people are breathing at very different rates throughout their day. So that's kind of our overall arching hypothesis, is that, you know, if you're an active person and exercise, you should be looking at dose and not looking at just the concentration.
The problem was that monitoring someone's exposure level and physical activity at the same time just wasn't technologically feasible.
So it's just been within the last few years where you've had devices that are small enough that are comfortable to wear around everywhere you go.
Now armed with miniaturized monitors, Dr. Chilrod and Dr. Jack are partnering with their local public radio station, WNYC, to recruit dozens of riders to act as mobile guinea pigs.
We ask study participants to wear our kit 5 times in a 2-week period.
During that time, the kit will gauge their blood pressure, heart rate, breathing volume, as well as minute-by-minute exposure to particles in the air.
Air comes in through this size-selective inlet, it comes down and it puts the particles onto a filter, and it looks at how much light gets through that filter.
Finally, the test subjects launch a GPS app, which will capture geographic data across each borough. And just to be sure these newfangled monitors are measuring accurately, each participant and their equipment are brought into a lab and put through their paces. Dr. Chilrod kindly demonstrates for us.
We're measuring ventilation, we're measuring how much volume he moves in and out of his lungs and at what rate, and then we're going to compare that to the values that are being obtained with the vest, so we can make sure that what the vest is measuring out in the field is actually accurate. The more vigorously that you exercise, the deeper you're going to breathe, the harder you're going to breathe, and then there's going to be greater exposure to whatever pollutants are in the air, theoretically. So you can hear how deep, how hard he's breathing. Steve is breathing right now at about 120 liters per minute, so he's taking in a lot of air right now.
We hypothesize that these short duration exposures that occur during commuting will have an effect on your heart rate variability. And then number 2, that we hypothesize that it will cause an ephemeral increase in blood pressure.
They also hope to identify spots throughout the city that you might want to avoid.
When you're in those street canyons, the air just sits there. The air doesn't move around. And so all the particles that get emitted from tailpipes, they stay around.
Conversely, the breezy banks of the Hudson or the East River should have less pollution, despite their proximity to major roadways.
So we're gonna pool all the data and create maps that will show the variation over space and over time.
Although the data may eventually show dramatic increases in how much pollution you breathe in while exercising, Dr. Chilrod cautions that their goal isn't to dissuade bike riding.
The exercise is good. That's been shown over and over and over again that exercise leads to a healthier life. But the question is can you do that exercise either at a certain time of the day, or can you do it in certain parts of the city? Can you choose your route to avoid and limit your exposure that way?
There may even be policies that cities can implement to reduce exposure.
It's a 5-year grant, and we're about halfway through year 1, so it's a long-term project.
And you can actually take part.
Yeah, go to wnyc.org/streets.
To find out more and learn about future biking projects. For Science Friday, I'm Luke Roskin.